Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's going on, Fantasy Champs? Tomorrow or today, depending on when you're listening to the show, we got football.
What we got?
The real life, not preseason, Patrick Mahomes not throwing to Travis Kelce football.
But real football.
Real football. Coincidentally, Patrick Mahomes will not be throwing to Travis Kelce.
No.
So,
well, probably not.
There's that. But because there's football on Thursday, we are going to break down and preview the Thursday night football game. Okay? So we're going to talk about all the goodies that happen in this game. It should be interesting. I don't know why they, by the way, didn't pick a better game.
I was gonna say, so you don't like this the Lions versus Chiefs?
I love the Lions. I'm glad I get to watch the Lions, but like, did they want it to just be like a 31-12 blowout or something, or?
Yeah, I don't. Well, I mean,
who knows?
For the Lions,
maybe they can hang
you're talking
around.
about, right?
Yeah. Hey, banner night, everyone's getting teary-eyed, you know.
Kelsey's probably out. Chris Jones is out.
Hey, there's a
I
chance.
think the Lions are a
underdogs.
Sneaky good play.
Yeah, but no, I just mean in terms of like a more interesting matchup. We could have had like Cincinnati versus versus the Chiefs or something like that. That would have been like, holy crap.
Right. Football's back.
Chiefs, football's back, but no, we get the Lions and the Chiefs. So it's just like, here, you know what? Thursday night football is back. Let's get these.
Yeah, true.
Let's get these.
Here's a Thursday night game.
It's a crappy
Dude, these
game.
aren't your same old Lions,
Yeah, no, it's true. That is true. But it should be interesting to see that game. So like I said, we are going to do a Thursday night preview, break down the game, give you our winner pick for the game, okay? And go from there. And you should have some guys. Hopefully you have some guys in your lineup. I don't have any of these players. I am watching against some players though.
I got Jameer Gibbs.
So you got Gibbs. You're going to get lubed up.
My guy who I'm playing against has Amon-Ra St. Brown, who I think could get 30 points this week. So,
That's tough. But anyway, so we're going to break down that matchup. Before we do, check our website, fantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Wait a minute. What did I just say? Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platforms, please leave a review. Share this podcast with your friends if you're following. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, like and comment down below. Dude, I struggled there. I struggled there because I was trying to do it without the friggin' show notes because I never look at them when they're physically in front of me.
Yeah.
But now that I'm not on the show notes, I'm like, what was I saying? What did I freaking just say? I don't know. But do all that stuff and comment down below how excited you are for the game because I'm elated. I'm just ready for football.
Same here, bro.
Specifically Patriots football, but
we're finally here.
I'll take anything. So, and Chiefs Lions will do it because I like the Lions. All right. So we are going to break this down. Like if you listened to us last year, we're going to break it down position by position on each team. So we'll start with Detroit. We'll go to Kansas City, and we'll just talk about the main players in this game and whether you should start them or sit them in the matchup, and whether they're not even just start or sit, but like what our expectations are for these players in this upcoming matchup. And if we think they'll have a good game or not. So that's kind of the discussion that we're going to have. We'll start with the Detroit Lions here, and we'll start with the quarterback position specifically in Jared Goff. Now, Goff is an interesting player. I don't imagine. I would love to know how many people have him on their teams. Where was he getting drafted? I don't even know.
About like QB 17, QB 18.
Okay, so I would imagine that if he was drafted, there's a good shot that he's not starting this week.
Probably not.
For the team that's playing, they probably have a better quarterback unless they really punted the quarterback position. Like you said, frick this. Week 1 rankings on expert consensus on Fantasy Pros. I don't know if you've done your week 1 rankings yet, Rick, but we'll just
by the time the show comes out, yes.
Well, that's fair. Right now he's QB 15 on the week against the Kansas City Chiefs. So interesting situation for Jared Goff. I would say my expectations for him, like Kansas City's not a super duper tough matchup. Chris Jones is out of the game. You know, their secondary is good, but it's not great, and they've had some moving pieces on the defensive side of the ball. That's honestly the weakest part of this football team is the defense. So it could be a good game for Jared Goff, but it's not a game that I want to, I always like to, I subscribe for at least the first 2 to 3 weeks of the season. I subscribe to this idea that, like, you don't necessarily need to juggle your lineup around in week 1.
Yeah.
Like, if you drafted Lamar Jackson to be your starting quarterback, you're not sitting him for Jared Goff. Or let's make it more reasonable. If you drafted Deshaun Watson to be your quarterback, and then you also drafted Jared Goff, you're not sitting Jared Goff. Just wait and see what Deshaun Watson does, even if he's got a bad
you're not sitting Deshaun Watson. That's what you meant.
Yeah, you're not sitting Deshaun Watson. Just put Deshaun Watson in your lineup, even if he's got a bad matchup, and just see what it looks like. If he ends up sucking, then you can next week or 2 weeks from now talk about Jared Goff possibly coming in if you have him as a backup. But despite me thinking, like, if you're streaming quarterbacks this week and that's your goal, I don't think Jared Goff is a bad stream because this Thursday night football game is different. Normally during the regular season, Thursday night football game, you got 4 days rest. It's not a good fantasy game for a lot of players. Like, they don't usually have big, massive explosion games. Not to ramble on about this, but so to me, when I look at Jared Goff, I see a guy that's going to be rested, ready to go for this football game against a good matchup. He could put up some fantasy points. I wouldn't be surprised if you're looking on the waiver wire after week 1 and you see Jared Goff with like 25 fantasy points. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you if you're drafting, a top quarterback or even not even, it doesn't even have to be top, but like a top 12 guy.
Yeah.
You're probably not playing Jared Goff this week. Mm-hmm. But I will say if you took, like, let's say you took Anthony Richardson like you did in our draft, and then you paired him with Jared Goff, I'd probably start Goff over Richardson.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I think Goff is going to have a pretty good week. I feel like it could be a shootout. Chris Jones, as you mentioned, is out. Yeah. And without Chris Jones, the Chiefs' defense is not that scary. And the strength of the Lions is their offensive line. Mm-hmm. And without Chris Jones, their defensive line on the Chiefs is not really that great. So I think the Lions could dominate on that side of the ball, or at least the line of scrimmage. So Goff should have time. I don't see him throwing like 400 yards and 3 touchdowns or anything like that, but I do think he'll be pretty efficient and could end up having a pretty solid week and a good enough week where he could crack the top 12. So as a streaming option, if you're streaming in week 1 already, I do like Jared Goff this week. But otherwise, he should be on your bench.
They have 2 running backs that I would say are going to be thought of as an option. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Montgomery, I don't know if he's starting for your team. He was kind of falling, I think in I'm trying to find what round he was going in. Round 7. So like he might be somebody that is like edging into your flex spot if you drafted him.
Yep.
So I would say normally with Chris Jones in the game, I would say this would be a tough game for David Montgomery to have success, especially with what his role is with this football team. Very similar to Jamal Williams last year. Yeah. I don't think it would be a good start. But against Kansas City without Chris Jones, it might be a play that you would feel a little bit more comfortable with. If there's a better option, I would go with that better option. But if you need like a second flex, David Montgomery's not horrible to me. As far as Jahmyr Gibbs is concerned, he was drafted kind of in a range where like he's in the 4th round or 3rd round. So it's like you kind of have to start him. But we talk about the veteran running backs getting the opportunity early. like David Montgomery's probably going to get a majority of the work early in the game, and then Gibbs is going to come in relief of him. So it's going to be a weird game for Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm kind of interested to see where you stand on this, Rick, because you have him in multiple leagues. But personally, I'm kind of in the space where I'm like, you kind of have to just throw him out there and start him because you drafted him so high. But I wouldn't have my expectations through the roof for Jahmyr Gibbs in this game. Just because he could pop off and be really good, but I think there's a chance that they don't throw him out there as much as you'd like to see him, and ease him back, not back in, but ease him into, the workload that they want him really to have. So, we could see that, or it could be completely different. It's week 1, so we don't know what's going on, but, give me your thoughts on these guys.
Yeah, I think we'll start with Montgomery. I do think he's solid play.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned with Chris Jones being out on the offensive line and everything. Yeah. I think if you drafted him to be like your flex, or if you're in a league like us where you have 2 flexes, he's your second flex, this wouldn't be a bad week for it. I don't expect him to go crazy, but you could easily see like 15, 16 carries or like 60 yards and a touchdown, right?
Yeah, something like that.
So I would say he's not a bad play. I don't know if he'll crack my top 25 for running backs, but he could be a good flex. And then Gibbs, he definitely worries me for week 1 because the rookie factor of it, and I think they want to get Montgomery going. I will say Montgomery is going to get more carries than Gibbs. I would be very surprised if Gibbs doesn't, or if Gibbs is able to get more carries than Montgomery. So
yeah,
I would probably be looking at like a 15-10 split, 15-9, something like that, where Montgomery's clearly gets more carries. I think where you're okay with starting Gibbs week 1 is that receiving. I wouldn't be expecting a huge game either, but I do expect him to be good enough receiving and maybe can get a touchdown in this game where he ends up being worth it. But either way, you took him in the 3rd or 4th round. I think you got to start him week 1. And I don't hate it. Like, I know some people are really down on Gibbs for this week. I think as long as if you're in a PPR league and as long as he gets like 5, 6, 7 targets, which I think is very possible, that he'll be fine for this week. He might not be great, but he'll be good enough.
Okay. All right, let's move to the next position. We got some wide receivers to talk about. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Marvin Jones, Josh Reynolds. I don't know if any of these secondary wide receivers are out. You've got Khalif Raymond as well. So I don't think, like, Marvin Jones, Josh Reynolds, Khalif Raymond, like those guys, throw them into a bucket. You're not going to start them. I don't expect anything out of them. You might get an explosion game from Josh Reynolds or something stupid like where he gets 12 points and everyone's like, pick him up off the waivers. But yeah, so I don't expect much from them. But Amon-Ra is going to get targeted like nobody's business. So he's a safe bet for me in this game. I think it's a good matchup, so you can anticipate some good things. I'm expecting somewhere in the vicinity of 10 to 12 targets, especially considering that there's not a lot of like dudes in this room to throw the ball to.
Yeah.
And so you're going to probably see Marvin Jones and Josh Reynolds definitely get involved. But Amon-Ra is a guy you want to go with here.
Yeah, I agree. I think Amon-Ra is obviously the only guy that I really felt comfortable about. If you're in some really deep leagues, maybe you could throw a flyer at Marvin Jones or Josh Reynolds, but I wouldn't be too comfortable with it. I think Amon-Ra, this is the type of game, while Jameson Williams is out, like, in a game that you expect to be kind of high scoring, the Lions, could be trailing in this game. These are one of those weeks where I think Amon-Ra could easily get 20 to 30 fantasy points. I think he's going to get like 12 targets in that range, get like 9 or 10 catches for over 100 yards, maybe a touchdown. I think it's a big, big week for Amon-Ra. And then I wouldn't really feel comfortable about starting anyone else.
Fair enough. And then finally at the tight end position, I want to hear your thoughts on Sam Laporta, Rick, because there really isn't a lot of options. And Brock Wright and James Mitchell are really the only 2 guys in competition with Brock Wright. With Sam Laporta. And so to me, I always look at the tight end position. I don't think there's going to be a big breakout for Sam Laporta this year. I don't think the tight end position is one at which you can have a massive breakout at that position. So to me, Sam Laporta is not a guy I'm targeting to start this week. But with JMO out and, a slightly easier matchup and a lot of pass catching opportunity. Sam Laporta might actually get some targets. I don't know, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on Sam Laporta, Rick.
Yeah, I think he will a little bit, but it won't be anything crazy.
Yep.
I don't hate him. The rookie tight end position is tough. I know a couple years ago, Freiermuth and Pitts were both top 10 as a rookie. So it is possible, but I wouldn't necessarily rely on it. I will say this week might not be too bad for him because, again, potentially high score game, lots of passing, and with really no one else outside of Monra as a receiving threat, and probably Gibbs. Laporte could probably be the third option there, maybe the fourth if you think one of Marvin Jones or Josh Reynolds will do something. So he could have a sneaky decent week, but I'm probably not starting him.
Okay, fair enough. Let's move to the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. Ring night, banner night, all that good stuff. I don't know if it's ring night. That's what they do in the NBA, but Kansas City playing Detroit. Detroit's a gritty football team defensively, so I don't know that they are a hard matchup necessarily. But they might not be an easy one either. I would say they're probably just a mediocre matchup for the Kansas City Chiefs in terms of production. We start with the quarterback position. Patrick Mahomes, not much to say there. Got to be in your starting lineup. Easy money. Like he's going to be there. As far as expectations are concerned, like you drafted him probably in the second round. And so your expectations should be that he is a QB1, top 5 on the week at minimum. So that would be my expectations for him in this game. Now, the question I have for you, Rick, more specifically, because I know you think the same thing about Patrick Mahomes. My question for you is that without Travis Kelce in this game, do you feel that is going to hinder Mahomes a little bit to the point where maybe he has a bust week this week in a way that people wouldn't anticipate?
Yes. I wouldn't say necessarily a bust week, though.
A bust week for Mahomes.
Yeah, because I do think this
15 points and you're like, frick.
Even without Kelce, I think the Chiefs could still put up points versus the Lions.
Yeah.
But it might not be 30 plus, so they might run the ball more. They might do some things differently, but it's Mahomes. He could still get 300 yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns, and then he might even rush for a touchdown. It's very possible, but I would say I don't know if he gets a top 3. I would not put him in the top 3 for this weekend. That's what I'm going to say. I think he's going to be still really good. It's Mahomes. You draft him high. You got to start him, and I think he'll still probably put up 20 fantasy points or 20 plus, but I don't know how much. His ceiling might be limited without Kelce for this week.
Okay, fair enough. Just how Andy Reid likes it, not really, but 3 running backs.
Yep.
All with possibilities. Jerick McKinnon was drafted. Isaiah Pacheco was drafted. Clyde back into that first round. Pacheco, is he playing week 1?
I think so.
Okay. Is Jerick McKinnon playing week 1?
I think so.
Okay. So Clyde is dead. I don't anticipate Clyde getting much work or opportunity in this game. It's going to be between Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon. I would anticipate that Jerick McKinnon gets the pass catching work while Isaiah Pacheco gets the rushing work. With all of that being said, I have zero interest in starting any of these guys. Now, some people might have drafted Isaiah Pacheco and want to start him. I don't know what to tell you. You probably want to hear something good, but I don't really want to give you anything good because I don't anticipate things being good for that.
I'll give you something that could be good.
It is an okay matchup for him and Jerick McKinnon, so it's not like it's the end of the world, but we've never seen all 3 guys healthy at the same time. So I don't know what Andy Reid anticipates doing, and if you got Jerick McKinnon in the 9th, 10th round and you're thinking should I start him? I would say no. I just wait and see kind of what it looks like first before you jump out and throw him in your starting lineup. And as far as my expectations for the game, for any of these guys, like I said, I don't have any expectations for them to have a big game. I think it could be a lot of muddle in the middle and, 3 guys getting opportunities and it being 50% Isaiah Pacheco, 40%, or 30% Jerick McKinnon and 10, 20% to Clyde. So
Yeah.
it's just going to be all over the place. But anyway.
Very, very gross. I don't necessarily like any of these running backs. I will give you an argument for at least McKinnon and Pacheco.
Okay.
Pacheco, I think, has the most likely to score a touchdown this week.
Yeah.
He's their goal line back, probably going to get the most carries in a game that,
Yeah.
as I mentioned a couple times here, but I do think we'll have some decent amount of scoring. You could start Pacheco at your flex and be like, okay, I'm expecting, 15 fantasy points because he's getting a touchdown this week. I think that's a possibility. For McKinnon, it's a deeper play, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. But with Kelsey out, I could see him getting a lot of targets, especially with Kelsey out, and we'll talk about him shortly. But Kadarius Toney could be limited as well, and the receiver, we don't really know what that looks like. There could be a world where McKinnon gets, 6 or 7 targets and gets a receiving touchdown this week. So if you want a deep play, I don't think he's too bad. And then Clyde is probably dead, but they'll get him involved too. It's kind of a gross room.
Yeah, very gross. All right, let's go to the even grosser room. The wide receiver. This team, legit. If you say Mahomes, I don't want this to happen in the slightest, but say something were happening to Mahomes, and they had Blaine Gabbert starting. This offense could be one of the worst in the league.
Yeah, it doesn't look appealing. Andy Reid alone would make them a somewhat comparable offense, but it wouldn't be good.
Oh, man. There's just so many weird things going on. Mahomes makes this entire football. He is the football team. And it's funny because everyone's like, oh, well, the cap. I hate to do this, but a lot of people say the cap is crap and it's not a situation. And meanwhile, Mahomes is taking up over 50% of the cap every single year, and their offense looks like this. So, I mean, yeah.
They did invest in the defense a little bit,
They did invest in the defense. That's where all the money went. So, yes, Mahomes taking up that much cap space is making it difficult. But you have Kadarius Toney at the wide receiver position. You have MVS. You have Sky Moore. Those are the 3 guys I'm going to be mainly watching for this game, that have a chance possibly to produce fantasy-wise. Maybe not MVS, but Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney specifically. And then I'll be watching for Justin Ross and Rashee Rice to see if they have any kind of upside. If Justin Ross even made the roster, I can't even remember. But
he did.
Okay, Justin Watson, did he make the roster?
He did.
What about Richie James?
He did. They have 7 receivers.
Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
All right, never mind. But the 2 guys that I would say that you're looking at for week 1 at least for starters would be Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney. Sky Moore, Toney's been going in the 8th, 9th round. Sky Moore's been going in the 10th. This is not a great matchup for them. Sky Moore, this is a good matchup for them. I don't know why my this is a really good matchup for them. But I don't know which guy I would reasonably start. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna get a lot of target share because if Kelsey's out, Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney are probably gonna get a lot of work, and it's gonna be interesting to see where that gets distributed. But at the same time, it's do we just stick with the guys in our flex spots and hope for the best, or do you stick Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney in your starting lineup in a flex spot and be like, oh, okay, this is good? Because I think my expectation would be both of these guys have a decent game, especially if Kelsey's out.
Yeah, that's fair. It's interesting at the wide receiver room here. So everything that I've seen reports from Chiefs beat writers and other guys, even national media, Rashee Rice and Justin Ross, and I think Andy Reid said this, that they're going to be limited week 1. They're trying to ease those guys into the offense. The starting receivers is expected to be MVS, Sky Moore, and Justin Watson, which is disgusting. Wow. Toney was limited, so he's probably going to play, and he might not get a huge snap percentage, but he's going to get targeted a lot when he's out there.
Yeah.
So he makes me nervous, and he could get injured at any point in the game, too. I don't know how much they're going to use him, but he might be their primary guy when he's out there. And when you're the primary guy for Patrick Mahomes, that's a good thing. Even if you're only out there for half the snaps, you could still end up with 7 targets and a touchdown off that. So I'm conflicted on Tony, and I have to make that decision because there's one league that I might start him in a dynasty league, my second flex, because I have some injuries. But then when it comes to Sky Moore, I would be actually more comfortable with Sky Moore because I know he's at least healthy, and he is going to be a starting receiver. I think they plan on using him more this year, especially early on. And with Travis Kelce out, I think he's going to get a lot of the short yardage work as well. So PPR leagues, he's a good, solid play. As for the rest of the receivers, I'm kind of out on. MVS is going to get his usual like 4 to 5 targets where he drops like 2 passes, but he'll make like 1 40-yard catch and everybody's going to go crazy for MVS. But I'm out on him. Justin Watson maybe has a sneaky, decent game. And then I just don't expect anything from the rookies just because from the reports, I think they said that they were going to use them in packages for both the rookie wide receivers.
Okay. That is interesting. All right. The tight end position's dead. Kelsey's probably going to be out. Noah
if he plays somehow.
Yeah, if he plays somehow, obviously he's a great play. But I don't think he's going to play week 1, considering the game's on Thursday. Hyperextended his knee. We talked about that on the last show. Noah Gray would step into his place. But I just don't think Kelsey, I don't think Mahomes would throw it all that much to him. Like people might say,
he'll get a couple targets, but it's not going to be like Kelsey.
My question for you, Rick, really quickly, while we end up finish off the show here before we finish off the show with our picks for the week. You don't have Kelsey this week. What are you doing?
I'm hitting the waiver wire.
Who you smashing?
Or if you drafted a tight end on your bench, then maybe. But if not, I'm hitting the waiver wire. It's kind of gross to whatever's out there.
Yeah.
But hopefully you have some decent plays.
Yeah, seriously. All right. So I think we can get to our picks now. I'm going to take Kansas City. That's
swear, man. What's the score?
Pretty easy. 31-21.
Okay. I'm taking the Lions.
Oh boy.
On a game-winning field goal.
I wish I had
27-24.
I wish I had the balls to do that.
I'm starting the year off 0-1.
He's like, I'll take it. All right. Any more thoughts for the fantasy champs?
I think that's it.
All right. There you go. There is a preview of the Thursday night football game, the first game of the season. Hopefully you enjoy it. I'm going to try to watch the Lions and just thoroughly enjoy myself. It's going to be a good game. 8:20. Saddle up. Ring night. We got starts and sits tomorrow. Be sure to check them out. See you later, guys.
See you.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.